Okay guys, it is surgery day. Mason and I are in the car and we're headed to the vet and he has no idea what's about to happen. So he's getting his eyes done. He has entropion eyelids, and then they're also doing something to remove his nose wrinkles because that pulls on the eyelids, and there's a chance that if we don't do the nose wrinkles that the eyelids don't hold and that it comes back. So take one last look at this gorgeous face, because it will be looking a bit different next time we see you, Bubby. Okay, Mason's been dropped off at the vet. He gets so excited when I take him there. I literally handed the lead to the vet assistant and Mason like ran off into the back rooms. Like he didn't even have a second look, didn't even say goodbye, which is fine. They always take really good care of him and he loves going there, which is great because I think I've worked out that in his almost 6 years of life, I'm pretty sure I've worked out he's been under anesthesia 6 times. So basically there is something that they have to knock him out for every year of his life. And I thought, let's chat about that. And let's chat about some of those health issues that Aussie Bulldogs are known for. So if you're thinking of getting an Aussie Bulldog or you've recently got one, this is the video for you. Just some of those things to be aware of, to be looking out for and to be prepared for. Okay, so let's start with Mason's history. Mason was born in 2018 and I got him at the start of December that year. And he was so tiny and he was adorable. He was born in Brisbane, so he had to be flown to Canberra, and then I drove to Canberra to pick him up, and love at first sight, absolutely adored him. So the first reason he got knocked out was an obvious one. He got desexed, which is a fairly routine standard thing that all dogs go through unless you're breeding them. So that was the first time that they needed to knock him out, and the first surgery that he had. Then when he was around a year old, he had some back issues and he was in a lot of pain. He didn't want to go up the stairs in my house. He didn't jump onto the bed or the couch like he normally did. And so I went to the vets to get that investigated, and we could tell it was something in his back, but he needed x-rays to identify exactly what the problem was. So they needed to knock him out for that because Mason was crazy. I've done another video about things to expect if you're getting an Aussie Bulldog, and basically in that whole video I'm like, this dog has more energy than I expected, and that was Mason. You could not get him to stay still. So we did have to knock him out to do those x-rays. It was well worth it because what we found from those x-rays is that Mason has spondylosis on his spine. Obviously I'm not a vet. This is not my area of expertise, so everything I'm saying to you is kind of what I understand from my point of view. If there's something here that resonates with you or you want to know more about, talk to your vet or do a little Google. But Mason has spondylosis, which is a degenerative condition. I believe it's fairly common in dogs when they get older, like 10 plus. But basically it's like little bony growths that grow on the spine, and when they're hitting on certain points or they're growing, that's what causes the pain and the issues. Like I said, it's degenerative, so it does get worse over time. Thankfully for Mason, what it has meant is that the vet suggested that we try a supplement rather than jumping to any kind of surgery. So Mason takes Foresight every day, and that seems to have a real impact on his spine and his mobility. And he has had probably, I think it's been about 2 or 3 times that his back has flared up since that original diagnosis. But we usually give him some steroids or whatever the vet's given us to help manage that, and then he just needs some rest and it gets better. His next time he got knocked out was a little bit different. We were out on a walk and he was doing what he always does, sniffing everywhere, and something went up his nose. And I tried my best to dislodge whatever was stuck in there, and the vets tried to dislodge, and we just couldn't get it. And in the end they had to knock him out. And there ended up being a stick in there like about this long. Like it was a decent size, and it had gone right up into his airways. So they had to knock him out to be able to get right up into his nose to get that out of there. Then he had an incident where he ripped off one of his back toenails on his foot. Thankfully, we thought we might have had to have knocked him out for that one just to give it a good clean and heal it up, but we didn't have to in the end. thank goodness. But I tell you, it's always something with this dog. And then last year, I woke up in the morning and Mason slept on my bed. He was next to me and his ear had puffed up like a pillow or something. It was just huge. And I did a really quick Google search and straight away I knew he had an aural hematoma. So basically what we think, or what the vet thinks, is at the time Mason was struggling with some allergies, which has been another ongoing health issue of Mason's, but he was feeling a bit itchy and either he had scratched his ear too hard or he had shook his head too hard and he had burst the blood capillaries in his ear, is what I believe happened. So that was another time we had to knock him out, and that was another surgery. So that involved obviously draining the hematoma, and then I don't really understand exactly the process, but he had this big sponge on his ear and his ear was stitched to the sponge with the idea being that it would cause scar tissue and that would stop it from happening again. If he scratched or shook his head too hard, the capillaries in there couldn't then burst again. And now here we are, he's in today having both of his eyes fixed. So he has entropion eyelids, which to my understanding is that the eyelids kind of roll, they sag down and then the eyelids roll in and it causes issues within the eye. So Mason has been having issues with his eyes pretty much all year. I look back on photos of him when he was younger and you can really see the droop in his eyelid, but the real issues with his eyes started this year. A lot of redness, a lot of weeping. He has just recovered from an ulcer on one of his eyes. So we basically really needed to get this done to prevent that from happening over and over and over again and just causing more distress to his eyes. The ulcers can get really bad and they can cause a lot of damage in the eye. So we just want to completely rule that out. So those are kind of the major things that Mason has had happen to him. But, you know, there are other health issues that he has. And allergies, which I had just mentioned, is one of the big ones. And that is really, really common in bulldogs. Whether you've got an English or an Aussie or a French, a lot of them have skin conditions. Mason's, when he was younger, tended to just be a summer thing. And we were fairly certain that there was a particular plant or a particular grass that he was reacting to. You sometimes see bulldogs and they've got the really red, rashy, irritated skin. Mason doesn't have that himself. He has more, he'll come out in hives. I remember one night, he must have been about 2 years old, and we came home and I ended up with him in the shower, showering him 3 different times with oatmeal wash, and I had to give him antihistamines, and he was just spotty, lumps all over him with these hives. So he gets quite itchy. He scratches his jawline a lot. And he goes through phases where he chews on his paws just constantly, scratching his ears. So yeah, allergies can be a real issue for him. I haven't had him on a particular allergy medication or an ongoing allergy medication. We've talked about it before with the vets, but what we find is that it's really a summer issue. And if we don't take him certain places, we haven't nailed down what it is that sets him off, but we have narrowed down certain places that if we take him, he seems to react. So we just try to avoid those, really keep an eye on his skin, and yeah, kind of just treat it as things pop up. If he looks like his skin's playing up, antihistamines tend to be the way we go, just for a little, a short time rather than having him on something constant. But I know it's a big issue for a lot of bulldogs and a lot of Aussie Bulldogs, and so a lot of them are on allergy meds more consistently. Of course, there are other really, really common health issues that Australian Bulldogs tend to have that Mason, touch wood, cross fingers, all of that, hasn't had an issue with. The biggest one being obviously with the brachycephalic, did I say that right? Brachycephalic, oh, I can't even say it now. The snub nose breeds, the ones with the shorter noses, our Bulldog breeds, a big issue with them is their airways. Now, this is one of the reasons that I chose to get an Aussie Bulldog rather than an English Bulldog or even a French Bulldog, because part of the breeding of an Aussie is designed to try and breed that nose longer and therefore a little healthier within the airways. So a lot of dogs have BOAS, which is airway surgery, and it's to do with the fact that that space between their nose and the back of their head and their throat and all that is shorter, and they have breathing difficulties. Mason hasn't had that, so I don't know all of the different things to do with that. I just know it's a big issue within the breed and something that is specifically trying to be bred out through the breeding of Aussie Bulldogs. And the other thing is the cherry eye, which I don't 100% know a lot about it, again, because Mason hasn't had it, but I believe it's related to the entropion, and like the red part of the eye pops out, is my understanding. Feel free to correct me. Again, not an expert, head over to Google. But that's another big one that I see in Facebook groups that I'm in with people that have Bulldogs and Aussie Bulldogs. And they're just things to be aware of. I did my research before I got this breed of dog, and I thought I knew what I was getting into. Like, I knew that there were a range of health issues that were possible, but I don't think I quite knew the extent of how common they were and how likely some of them are for Bulldog breeds. I strongly recommend that if you are getting any kind of bully breed, that you do look into pet insurance. I personally chose not to take out pet insurance, and my plan has always just been to put money into a separate account and to always have money on hand, like savings or an emergency fund for when Mason needs things. At this point in time, as I've said, Mason's been under anesthetic, I think we're up to 5 times. That has added up. It has been quite costly. This current surgery, so getting the eyes and the nose wrinkle done, we're looking at around $2,000. So you can imagine it adds up over time with all of the different surgeries and issues and vet appointments that Mason has had. I now look back and I see that vet insurance probably would have been really worthwhile. So that's a little rundown of kind of Mason's health history and just a little general things to look out for, things to be aware of if you are getting an Aussie Bulldog or kind of any bully breed. I'd love to know in the comments if your dog's had any of the things we've talked about and what your experience was like, or in the comments if there is something I have missed that you think is quite a common health issue for bully breeds, or something completely out of the blue that your dog might have gone through that you wish you had known was a possibility as a dog owner. Let me know in the comments, and I'll come back to you this Savo when we go to pick Mace up from the vet. Apologies for the dark video, but I don't want to turn the lights on him. So I picked Mason up at about 3:30. I had the appointment to go get him. He got through the surgery really well. He's a bit groggy now. It's about 6 o'clock. We've literally come straight home and we've been laying on the couch. Since I picked him up, he laid on my lap for about an hour and a half. And now he's just chilling. I gave him a little bit to eat. But yeah, he's a bit tired. I think the cone's bothering him a little bit. But otherwise he's just been sleeping. I took some photos of his face, but it's just kind of hard to show exactly what it's like. It's not as bad as I kind of expected it to be. A lot of the stitches are more internal along his lash line, and then there's just like one little outer stitch on each eye, and then the nose is the same like this. So this kind of goes along here, but it's internal. It's one on the end and along there. So it's not as like horrifying to look at as I guess I was expecting, but yeah, poor thing. He'll just be resting for quite a while, and we'll see how he goes tomorrow. The cone's going to annoy him, but he did wear the cone for quite a few weeks when he got his ear done. So I know he can deal with it, but it's never fun to recover from surgery. So hopefully tomorrow, when the light's a bit better, I'll be able to show you how his face is actually looking, but he's doing really well. Okay, it's the day after Mason's surgery on his face, and this has been our whole day. We've just been chilling out. He has been so snuggly and cuddly and just wanting to snooze, wanting pats, wanting me to scratch his face, wanting to lay on my lap and just chill out. But he's doing well. He's been really great about it. His face is looking good. I've been putting some eye ointment in there and he's been handling that really well. So all is going well. So I'm going to end the vlog here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.